Welcome everybody. Today we will be speaking on Dry September, written by William Faulkner, famous American short story writer and novelist. You know, Dry September is a short story that was published in the Scribner magazine in 1931. The short story is a very controversial and very conspicuous regarding rumor and very strong hatred, racial hatred of the white Americans towards African Americans or the black people, right? Those are addressed as Negroes. Okay, and you can understand in this short story, William Faulkner conspicuously bringing forth the blind hatred of racism towards of the southern states or people or white Americans of the southern states of America towards the black people or the African Americans, the people who are having black skin color. But there is the title of the short story is very interesting because the title is Dry September, and Faulkner begins the story with the sentence that it is a bloody September and it is a bloody September day, and he refers to wide area of grassland that had gone dry due to a scorching sun rays, and as it was rainless over a span of almost 3 months, right? And you can understand that rumors just spreads like fire, in that dry grassland, and rumor also similarly spreads in like fire in the community. And what was the rumor? That there was a character called Minnie Cooper, who is a white lady, and most importantly she is a spinster, means who had not married or had not been able to marry anyone, and she had not been courted by anyone, and therefore she suffers from a kind of neurosis or depression, and therefore the rumor spreads that Minnie Cooper is probably raped by or molested by a black man called Will Mays. And the short story begins in a barber shop, and the barber, one of the barbers, Hawkshaw, tries to persuade the people or the white people, those who are the customers or clients of his shop, that they need to probe into the matter whether anything really happened or not. But we find how terribly the southern white people or white Americans are racially inclined and racially shares very strong terrible hatred of ethnicity, and they don't they are so blinded by their ethnic hatred that they don't even bother to think about at all about the real incident or reality that is behind the incident, right? And they are not even sure whether anything has happened or not. And Hawkshaw tries to persuade them that he knows Will Mays, the black man, very well, that he is a very well behaved man, and he thinks that it is not very much believable that Will Mays may have assaulted or done anything to Minnie Cooper. Minnie Cooper is a white woman, and she is a spinster, and her words cannot be taken for granted, and that was the argument of Hawkshaw. But he is terribly defended or rather objected by his fellow white southern white American people or white American gatherings, those who were present in his shop, barber shop, right? And they thought, how can you support a black man while how can you reject a white woman's words? I mean, they say that when a white woman is saying that or anything, or accusing anything, that should be taken as truth, right? As, and that creates problem, that is the problem of ethnic hatred. And Hawkshaw tries desperately to say that Mini Cooper's words must not be trusted without proper verification. There is police and other systems, they may verify that, but those people, white people, those who are racially inclined and shares very strong hatred towards black Americans, right? And they don't bother about the auction. They always insults Hawkshaw, that how can he, being a white man, can support a black man like Will Mays, right? He should be punished, right? And Hawkshaw tries to persuade them that punishment must not be inflicted or meted out to Will Mays without proper verification or investigation. Anyways, in that atmosphere of argument, a character appears whose name is McClendon, and he is very strongly inclined and racially inclined, and he is very stubborn in his racial hatred, right? And he is not a happy man, and he takes all those white man by dint of his gift of gab, that is definitely on the bordering on racial hatred. And he thinks, and when Hawkshaw asks the question that whether there is any truth behind the incident, that it may be a rumor, right, or whether there is any truth behind the fact that whether Will Mays had raped Mini Cooper or not, McClendon very importantly, very significantly replies that that how can you let a black son getting away with whatever he had done? What the hell does it matter? I mean, there is no it is not necessary at all to verify the fact, because they are inclined to take the words of Mini Cooper, as she is a white woman, as true, or as something validated, right? And you can understand that racial hatred becomes so prominent, so dangerous, that Will Mays had to become a victim of this racial hatred without proper justification or any intrusion of justice or law and order. But they brutally kill Will Mays, taking the laws in their hand. And William Faulkner disgustingly and very powerfully criticizes this racial hatred of the southern white Americans, right, towards the black people or black Afro Americans. And this Dry September, this short story, assesses the racial hatred that is prevalent in those days, and even we find nowadays that often come into the forefront through mass media, right? So many brutal incidents and unfortunate incidents happen even now in the 21st century in United States. And the days of William Faulkner was also very dangerous as far as racial hatred is concerned. And if we assess the character of Mini Cooper, she is also a lady who is a spinster, as I have told you, that she tries to capture attention, and she does not bother about that her whimsical frenzy makes a innocent black man suffer even to death, right? And this you can understand, she tries to seek attention by spreading rumor, and thereby there is a strong connection between her whimsicality and the racial hatred, and how an innocent man loses his life, right? And you can understand that Dry September terribly criticizes this kind of attitude, or callous attitude of these ladies, those who are unhappy in their own life but they cause trouble to innocent people. And racially hatred mongers, right, and those who are racially dangerous, right, and those who possesses racial hatred, ethnic hatred, they take the chance, take this sort of chance to exercise or to build on their racial hatred by killing innocent people, right, and taking law and order in their hand. And these white people, these white murderers actually get away with their crime, while an innocent black man, Will Mays, had to face terrible cruelty due to racial hatred, right. And this is the a prime base of the short story Dry September. But Dry September is full of cruelty, cruelty of dire cruelty of racial hatred, right. And another element of the short story that is very strong, that is rumor, how people can rely on only rumors, right. And rumors can be so dangerous that even may take an innocent innocent man's life, right. And you can understand that rumor, racial hatred, and how people get blinded by racial hatred, and how a man like Hawkshaw, though he tries desperately to save that Will Mays, that innocent man Will Mays, from this racial hatred, but he can do nothing at all, right. And the character of Hawkshaw represents the new southern people, southern white men, those who have the senses, but the McClendon and his followers represent the older concepts of southern states of America, right. And all of us, we know that abolition of slavery actually came with the Civil War of United States, led by Abraham Lincoln, the great American president, who fought for the abolition of slavery. And southern states were ardent supporter of slavery and ethnic hatred, racial hatred. And the history of America is definitely should be considered with reference to the racial hatred that we find in the short story Dry September, right. And William Faulkner is very beautifully, very dexterously portrays this racial hatred that is that was inflicted by these people, by these white Americans, on these innocent black man, and they act all these violent deeds only relying on, only believing on rumors, right. And William Faulkner Dry September has also some symbols in it, right. Dry September, dryness that causes, that may get fire very quickly, right. And the rumors also spreads like very quick fire, right. And people being blinded by the fact of rumor without verifying it, without investigating it properly, without they take very easy chances, they come to a decision that is definitely improper, that is racially blinded, racially inclined, right. And William Faulkner very powerfully criticizing this kind of hatred, racial hatred or ethnic hatred that is practiced by southern province of white Americans, right. And this definitely this short story is a social document that definitely had historical basis in it, historical truth in it, right. And the proper history of America, if we can analyze, if we can read, that definitely we can relate the history of America of racial hatred or ethnic hatred that is very closely, intricately related to this short story Dry September, right? And we can, this is the short story is written in 5 parts. I mean, there are 5 parts, right? The structure of the short story is very interesting, right? I mean, William Faulkner, part wise analyzes or indicates the phases of racial hatred, how it is developed, and how white people take their chances or exercises their racial hatred very gleefully and very, very willingly, right? And by using the humor only, right? And the structure of the short story is also very important, that indicates the development of racial hatred and how it takes away an innocent life of Will Mays, right? And it is a complete procedure. And there is also another indication by William Faulkner, that how the character of McClendon is essentially an unhappy and cruel man, though he represents the racially inclined and very, very dangerously racially inclined white man, who even tortures his own wife at home. But it is very ironical that he takes law in his hand, and he provokes other white men in giving justice to another white woman called Minnie Cooper, right, by killing an innocent black man, Will Mays, right? And the assessment of his character is definitely very, very problematic. He is a psychomaniac in a way, and he draws pleasure by oppressing people, right? And he takes a very high hand while he has got any chance to deal with any black man, right? And this is this sort of hatred, racial hatred. They are they please their souls by oppressing the black people, black men, right, in their country, and by oppressing them, by killing them, by torturing them, they exercise their racial hatred, right? They build on the they pile on their racial hatred, and these they consider a sort of accomplishment that they had killed some of black man or community, people of black community, right? And this is a terrible truth of the American history, that African Americans are tortured and brutalized, slaughtered, all ages after ages, right, decades after decades. And this short story is very conspicuously, very, very directly relates to that historical truth, right? Thank you all. I hope I have tried to explain all the traits of the short story, and there will be more. I will be uploading more lectures on American short stories that is in your syllabus, right? Thank you all. If you have any questions, and any if you can have if you can relate to any other topics that related to the short story, you may write in the comments below, right? And don't forget to subscribe and like. Thank you all. Thank you very much. I will be uploading my next video very soon. Thank you all.